a test case trial is taking place in Los Angeles, in which big tech companies Meta and YouTube are accused of creating addicts of youngsters. It could set a major legal precedent regarding the civil liability of social media operators. The case involves a 20-year-old identified as KGM who claims she became addicted to social media platforms from the age of 6, subsequently experiencing depression, self-harm, and suicidal thoughts as a result. Well, on Wednesday, Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Meta, which is the parent company of Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, gave evidence in court and denied these allegations. Lawyers for Meta have argued KGM was hurt by other things in her life, not by her use of Instagram. Mr. Zuckerberg did, however, say he regretted Meta's slow progress in identifying underage users. The trial, in which Google's YouTube is also defended, is being closely watched. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Arise senior producer Rita Osakwe. Thanks for coming in, Rita. Just tell us more about what Mark Zuckerberg said in court. What are you hearing about how he came across as he gave evidence?
Well, I'm hearing there's some reports that he struggled slightly in court, but for the most part, he was measured, calm, and very firm in his defense of himself and basically his company. He said that, as you said, he regretted the slow progress that Meta made in identifying children under the age of 13 on Instagram. He also said that that Meta has improved since then and that they have gotten better in identifying users. Zuckerberg also claimed that he has worked for years to address what he called the problematic use of platforms like Instagram, because he believes, in his words, it's the right thing to do. He also brought his personal life into it, saying that his company has built safe, or is trying to build safe platforms for kids, and that even his own kids are starting to use these platforms. So yeah, he was calm and measured, but will he come across that way to people listening? That's
yeah, of course. I've read some reports suggesting that what came out is that Meta is a company that knew they were designing their platforms in ways that would target, addict, and manipulate very young kids, and that they had research showing that they knew how harmful these platforms would be, and they hid that research and continued to market and target kids. I mean, what more can you tell us about that?
Yes, some of this research goes back to 2015, so about a decade ago. Meta conducted research itself showing, and it showed that they knew that some of its platforms like Instagram made children addicted and created feelings of trauma and stress in them, and increased bad feelings and bad self-image in themselves. There was also another research from another company in 2019 that showed that teenagers were hooked to the platform in a way that was very addictive, and they had addictive narratives about platforms like Instagram. In a separate email in 2017, an executive said that Mark Zuckerberg wanted the top priority for his company to be teenagers. So all this just shows that.
But of course, Mr. Zuckerberg described this as a mischaracterization when he was in court.
Yes, and that's the exact word he used, Charles. He said it was a mischaracterization. He also said that some of the research studies and emails were taken out of context. He was very defensive, and he said that Meta removes accounts of underage users when they find it, and that some of these users actually lie about their ages to get on the platform. He also revealed that he reached out to the CEO of Apple to make sure that child safety was a priority in his platform and other platforms, and his lawyers are using that as a way to show that he cares about the safety of children and teenagers.
So what evidence do the plaintiffs hope to bring to support the claim that social media is addictive to youngsters? I mean, we understand in the recently released Meta files, there were internal company document showing that Meta's employees likened themselves to drug pushers and joked about it.
Yes, of course, they did. They said that Instagram, in an internal email, they said that Instagram was a drug, basically, and that the employees, are pushers of this drug, which is Instagram. So lawyers are going to definitely use this language to show that the employees and Mark knew about Instagram and how addictive it was, how its design was addictive, and they still decided to push it out in that way. There's other pieces of evidence, I guess you could say, that the plaintiff, the lawyers could use against Instagram and against Meta. It's the case of, I guess, the most important case, or the reason this whole case is even out there, of KGM, a 20-year-old woman who claims, or who says that she became addicted to Instagram at the age of 9 and YouTube at the age of 6, and she became depressed and became suicidal because of this. So all these things will be used to show, to make a case against Meta.
And how much of an impact could this case have on Meta and other sort of tech giants? It's been described as precedent-setting, though it should be said that both Meta and Google, as we mentioned, have denied the allegations, especially in relation to this case.
Yep, they have denied the allegations. And it's also important to note that TikTok and Snap were also included originally in this case, but they managed to settle out of court. Well, how they settled, we don't know, but they did settle out of court. So it's a landmark case because it could determine how these tech and social media giants could operate in the future. It could also have profound effects on the businesses of these companies and how they handle children using their media, social media, of course, and social media platforms. It could also mean that for the first time ever, we could see laws enacted to protect children and algorithms that are displayed to children on these platforms, not just Instagram, but across the board on TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube, and all the other platforms.
That's interesting, because I was going to ask you what happens if Meta loses this case. I mean, whether we're looking at more regulation and social media companies, or much more than that, or might there be pushback, for example, from ordinary people at the notion of governments getting more into the business of adjudicating speech and potentially deciding which viewpoints stay and which go?
Yes, I mean, it's hard to imagine that these companies won't fight back and say the issue of free speech won't come up and governments controlling what's put out there on social media and online. If Meta does lose, as I said, there'll be more attention on the safety of young users, or lack of safety of young users on these websites. There'll also probably be more safeguards for youth accounts and increased transparency requirements. But we're also seeing more already countries restricting the use of social media, countries like Australia and I think recently Spain. The UK is also considering restricting the use of social media to accounts and teenagers over 16. So we could see more of that in the future if Meta loses.
Well, it's very interesting, and thank you for bringing that story to us. Arise senior producer Rita Osakwe there.